for everybody, no matter your size or shape, and can be modified to fit your body. Today I'm going to show 4 modifications for plus size bodies: child pose, easy sit pose, figure 4, and the transitions from downwards facing dog into a lunge. I'm Noko, and I invite you to like this video, subscribe to my channel by clicking the bottom right corner of the screen. Let's get started. My first recommendation is to invest in some props, blocks. You have the options to get a foam block. They are much more comfortable if you have to rest your head. They're much lighter, however they're not stable. So I would recommend to invest in a pair of cork blocks. They are much sturdier and they are much more stable. Also, a yoga strap. You can also use a towel or a belt from a rope. And finally, a bolster. This is a bit pricey, however you can keep it forever and use it for so many different things. Let's start with the child pose. So in child pose, typically the instructor will cue to bring the hips down and reach the arms forward. That's one variation of the child pose. This may not happen that way. So what you want to do is create more space. So all modifications will create more space. Here you create more space by opening the knees wider, keeping your big toes together, and your hips may come down a little bit, but not that much. So instead of trying to push back and getting stuck here, place your forearms onto the mat. And if you want to rest your forehead, make 1 or 2 fists. You can use 1 or 2 blocks. Or even better, you can create an incline or place 2 blocks flat and just rest your entire body. I like this option because you can completely relax. Let me show you the last modification for the child pose. If all of this is not working or if you don't have the equipment right away, you can do your child pose on your back or a variation of the child pose. Ideally with a strap. So what you do, you roll on your back. Knees are going to be much wider, remember, than your chest. So you open your knees wide, and either with the strap you're going to pull your knees, or if your hands are reaching underneath your knees, you can just pull them and rest right here. This was our first modification. Second modification is the easy pose or easy sit pose, and this pose comes all the time in yoga, either in the beginning of the class, sometimes in the middle, or at the end of the class. And for a lot of people it's not that easy because it requires range of motion, flexibility in the hips, in the low back. So what we're going to do, create more space. You do this by sitting on a block, or you can use 2 blocks next to each other. If you still need more elevation, use your bolster and place it on your blocks. And here it goes. Make sure they are spread out wide enough so you don't fall sideways. And here it allows you to be seated with a natural alignment in your spine. If all of this is not working, you can always sit on a chair and do the whole seated position from a chair. Okay, if you're leaning sideways, whatever you're doing in a chair, you can do it. Whatever you're doing on the floor, you can do it sitting on a chair. This was our second pose. Third pose is the transition from downward facing dog to lunge, which is a challenging pose for most students starting yoga. So downward facing dog. From here you'll hear the instructor typically cue you to reach out with one leg and bring the foot between your hands. Where here you may not have the range of motion in your hips, or you may need more space, so we're going to create more space. How do we do this? You can place your hands on the block. Now, the wider the surface connecting with your mat, the more stable the block. So if this works in this position, that's the better option. Otherwise, you can place your blocks on a smaller edge, downward facing dog, and reach your leg back slightly. Instead of reaching between your hands, reach outside. And you may get stuck here. That's fine. You can grab your ankle, bring your foot forward. You can slide your back foot back so that you can draw your hips and feel the full benefit of the stretch. The other option is to also place your back knee on the floor. Let me show you another option with or without the blocks. So let's say you are in downwards facing dog. Instead of reaching your leg out and stepping through or stepping sideways, what you can simply do is bring your knees back down. If you're close to a wall, place one hand on the wall, come back up. You can always hold on to the wall and step your foot outside the block. And from here, you can reach down with your hands, remember, on any side. If you want to place your foot between your blocks, you can do so. And here you're also in a lunge. And you want to create as much space as possible between your front heel and your back knee. If you are right here, you may not feel the stretch. So you're going to step forward, okay, and bring your back hips downward. So bring your tailbone down. You can keep your back knee on the floor, or you can tuck your toes under and extend your back knee. So this was the third pose. The last pose is figure 4. This is another pose to stretch the hips. This is your figure 4. Basically, I cross one leg over the other thigh, and from here I try to get as close as possible to my heel and bring my chest forward. So you can imagine here I have almost no space for my torso. So what are we going to do? We're going to create more space. Several options. One, from here you're going to keep one leg extended, bend the other leg, grab your ankle and place it across here. Place your hands onto the mat and start bending the knee. And you may start feeling the stretch right away. Make sure this knee is not coming up, keep it down, okay? Now you may not go as far because you may need more space. So how do you create more space? You do the exact same thing we did earlier. Place your blocks on the mat, create your elevation. Sit on your bolster and do the same thing. Grab one ankle, place it across the opposite leg, and from here press your knee down. If you feel that you need to lean back, I would recommend to place everything against a wall or close to a wall. Not exactly against the wall, a few inches away, so you have space to lean back. And here you may feel more comfortable leaning back to get into the position without the fear of falling back. This front foot may be further away from you initially, and then as you get more flexible, it's going to come closer. And what I do here, I make sure this ankle is flexed to protect my knee, and I press the knee down so that I can feel the stretch going down my hips and lift the spine. So today you learned the modifications for the child pose, the figure 4, the transitions from downward facing dog to the runner's lunge, and the easy sit pose. I would love to hear your comments. Let me know if you consider yourself a plus size and if those helps. Tell me if you're not a plus size and those modifications help. Let's place our hands to heart center. I thank you for your time, and next week there's going to be other modifications for plus size bodies. Namaste.